Third week, Tuesday night. The Lenox Lounge sits heavy with smoke and silence. No music playing, no glasses clinking. Just the low hum of breathing, strained, careful, like the room itself is holding its lungs shut. Frankie Red Knuckles O'Malley stands at the center booth, sweat beating down the side of his neck despite the February cold seeping through the cracked window behind him. His boys flank him, 3 Irish bruisers who came to Harlem thinking they were stepping into a graveyard. Now they're standing in one. Across from them, in the corner booth that never gets sat in unless he's sitting in it, is Bumpy Johnson. He doesn't speak, doesn't move, just watches them with that same flat expression he's worn since they walked in 20 minutes ago without an invitation. Red's mouth is dry. He tries to wet his lips, but there's nothing left. His hand twitches toward the inside of his coat, not for a weapon, but for the envelope, the white flag, the surrender they swore 3 weeks ago would never come. "We're out," Red says, voice cracking on the second word. "We're done with Harlem. You win." Bumpy still doesn't speak. The silence stretches so long that one of the Irish boys shifts his weight, and the floorboard groans like a scream in church. Then Bumpy leans forward. Just an inch. Just enough. "I know," he says. 2 words. That's it. Red's knees almost buckle, because in those 2 words is the truth they've been running from for 3 weeks straight. Bumpy Johnson never fights. He never has to. He just stops the world from turning until you beg him to let it move again. Red pulls the envelope from his coat, thick with cash, heavy with shame, and sets it on the table between them. For the inconvenience. Bumpy doesn't touch it, doesn't even look at it. He looks at Red instead, and for the first time since they arrived, something changes in his face. Not anger, not satisfaction, just knowing. Next time, somebody tells you a street has an owner, Bumpy says, voice so low Red has to lean in to hear it. Believe them the first time. Red nods again, keeps nodding as he backs toward the door, his boys stumbling after him like children fleeing a haunted house. The door closes, the smoke swirls, and Bumpy Johnson goes back to his drink like nothing happened at all. But here's the question you need answered. How did the most feared Irish crew in New York go from laughing at Bumpy's warning to begging for mercy in 3 weeks flat? What happened in the silence that made grown men break? Subscribe and stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't just a gangster story. It's a masterclass in power that Wall Street still studies today. Let's rewind. 3 weeks earlier, early 1960s. Harlem is a kingdom without a crown, and Bumpy Johnson is the king nobody voted for, but everybody answers to. Understand something? Bumpy isn't a gangster in the movie sense. No. Pinstripe suits, no Tommy guns, no screaming in the streets. He's something older, something quieter, the kind of power that doesn't announce itself because it doesn't have to. He runs the numbers, controls the back rooms, keeps the peace between crews that would slaughter each other if he wasn't there to hold the leash. And he does it all without ever raising his voice above a whisper. Harlem in the 60s isn't like the rest of New York. It has its own rhythm, its own rules, its own code that outsiders can't read. Every corner belongs to someone. Every bar has a history. Every handshake means something 3 moves down the line. And for 20 years, that code has been written in Bumpy's hand. But things are changing. The city's shifting. The Italian mob is consolidating. The cops are getting greedier. And in the cracks between old power and new money, someone's always looking for an opening. Enter the Westies. If you don't know the name, let me paint it for you. The Westies are the Irish mob out of Hell's Kitchen. Brutal, reckless. The kind of crew that solves problems with car bombs and meat hooks. They're not sophisticated, they're not subtle, but they're hungry. And hunger makes you stupid. By early 63, the Westies have eaten up most of the West Side. They've pushed out the small-time crews, bought off the right cops, and started eyeing new territory. And when they look east toward Harlem, they see something that looks like weakness. No Italian backing, no political machine, just an old man in his 50s holding on to a neighborhood that's already changing. So they make the move. It starts small. A bar on 145th changes hands, then a poker game on Lenox, then a numbers runner who suddenly stops reporting to Bumpy's people and starts reporting to Red Knuckles instead. To the Westies, it looks like progress. To Bumpy, it looks like cancer. He doesn't react. Not yet. He just watches, listens, lets them think they're winning. Because here's what the Westies don't understand about Harlem. It's not a place you take. It's a place that decides whether or not to let you in. And Bumpy Johnson isn't the landlord. He's the immune system. 2 weeks into the incursion, Bumpy sends a message. Not a threat, not a demand, just a message, delivered by a neighborhood kid to Red Knuckles himself, standing outside a bar the Irish just claimed. The kid walks up, hands Red a folded napkin, walks away. Red unfolds it. 6 words written in pencil. These streets already got an owner. Red reads it, looks around, then does the worst thing he could possibly do in that moment. He laughs. His boys laugh. The whole crew standing outside that bar laughs like it's the funniest thing they've heard all year. One of them even crumples the napkin and tosses it into the gutter. Harlem don't scare nobody no more, Red says, loud enough for the block to hear. They toast. They drink. They go back inside like they just won something. And here's where I need you to pause and think. Do you think reputation alone is enough to hold power? Or does power have to prove itself every single time someone tests it? Drop your answer in the comments, because what happens next depends entirely on how you see the game. Here's what you have to understand about the Westies. They weren't idiots. They were calculating, and they knew that taking Harlem outright would mean war with Bumpy, which meant war with every crew, every policy bank, every backroom operator who'd been paying him tribute for 20 years. So they didn't try to take it by force. They tried to buy it from the inside. 3 days after the napkin incident, Red Knuckles sits down with a man named Raymond Smooth Perkins. Smooth is one of Bumpy's lieutenants, been with him for 5 years, runs the numbers operation on the east side, trusted with money, trusted with secrets, trusted with everything. They meet in a diner on 25th, neutral ground. Smooth orders coffee. Red orders eggs he doesn't eat. You know what your problem is? Red says, leaning back in the booth like he's already won. You're loyal to the wrong man. Smooth doesn't respond, just stirs his coffee, slow, methodical, like he's thinking about something far away. Red slides an envelope across the table, thick, white, the kind of thick that makes a sound when it hits Formica. 10,000, Red says. Cash, right now, just for sitting, here and listening. Smooth doesn't touch it, but he doesn't push it away either. Here's the pitch, Red continues. Bumpy's old. The game's changing. The Italians are moving in from the south, we're moving in from the west, and Harlem's gonna get squeezed whether he likes it or not. You can go down with him or you can get paid to step aside. He taps the envelope. 30 grand total. 15 now. 15 when you give us the names of his suppliers, his cops, his bankers. You walk. Away clean. We walk in quiet. Bumpy retires. Everybody wins. Smooth finally looks up. His face is unreadable. And if I say no? Red smiles, the kind of smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Then you're part of the old Harlem, and the old Harlem's dying whether you're ready or not. The diner hums with the sound of forks on plates, low conversation, the hiss of the griddle. Outside, the street moves like it always does, unaware, unconcerned, alive. Smooth picks up the envelope, feels the weight of it. $10,000. More money than his father ever saw in his life. More money than he'd make in 2 years running numbers for Bumpy. He thinks about his girl, about the apartment he can't afford, about the future that keeps slipping further away every time he counts someone else's money. He thinks about loyalty, about code, about the fact that Bumpy Johnson once killed a man for stealing $20 from the wrong person, and then he thinks about the fact that $30,000 could buy him a whole new life somewhere far away from all of this. I need time, Smooth says. You got 48 hours, Red replies. After that, the offer goes to someone else. Smooth stands, pockets the envelope, walks out without finishing his coffee. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Red Knuckles allows himself to believe that Harlem might actually be for sale. Now here's the question I want you sitting with. Was Smooth a traitor the moment he took that envelope? Or was he just a man trying to survive a game rigged against him from the start? Because here's the thing about betrayal. It never looks like betrayal when you're the one doing it. It looks like opportunity. It looks like escape. It looks like the first smart decision you've made in years. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. If you're watching this thinking you'd never be Smooth, subscribe now, because I'm about to show you how easy it is to become him. Bumpy Johnson finds out about the meeting 6 hours after it happens. Not because someone snitched. Not because he has the diner bugged. But because in Harlem, Information moves like water, and Bumpy built the pipes. The call comes in around midnight. Bumpy's at home reading a book when the phone rings. He picks it up on the second ring. "Smooth met with Red Knuckles," the voice says. No greeting, no explanation, just the fact. "Where?" Bumpy asks. "Diner on 125th. They shake hands? No. Money change hands?" Pause. Looked like it. Bumpy hangs up without saying goodbye. Sets the phone down gently, like it's made of glass. Then he sits there in the dark for a long time, thinking. Most men would rage. Most men would grab a gun and go handle it right then and there. Most men would see betrayal and respond with blood. Bumpy Johnson is not most men. He's a strategist, a chess player in a world full of checkers players. And the first rule of strategy is this: never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. The Westies think they're infiltrating Harlem. They think they're buying loyalty, flipping lieutenants, building a network from the inside. What they're actually doing is showing Bumpy exactly who they are, what they want, and how they plan to get it. And that information is worth more than revenge. Over the next 48 hours, Bumpy doesn't confront Smooth, doesn't pull him aside, doesn't even change how he treats him. If anything, he gives Smooth more responsibility, more access, more trust, more rope. Because Bumpy knows something the Westies don't. Loyalty can't be bought. It can be rented. But the moment you stop paying, it evaporates. And the Westies are about to stop paying. Meanwhile, Bumpy starts making moves. Quiet moves. Invisible moves. He calls in favors from suppliers, talks to bartenders, has quiet conversations with beat cops who've been on his payroll for a decade. He doesn't ask for much. Just small things. Little adjustments. A delivery gets delayed. A truck breaks down. A shipment goes to the wrong address. Nothing dramatic. Nothing traceable. Just friction. And friction, applied consistently, stops even the biggest machine. By the end of the first week, the Westies start noticing problems. Small ones. A poker game gets raided. A numbers runner gets picked up by cops who usually look the other way. A bar that was supposed to open under new management sits dark because the liquor license mysteriously got held up. Red Knuckles chalks it up to bad luck. Growing pains. The cost of doing business in a new territory. By the end of the second week, the problems multiply. Suppliers stop returning calls. Contacts go silent. Meetings get canceled at the last minute with no explanation. It's like Harlem itself is rejecting them. Because it is. See, here's what the Westies never understood. Bumpy Johnson doesn't control Harlem through fear. He controls it through connection. Every bartender, every shopkeeper, every street kid, every grandmother sitting on a stoop, they're all part of the network. And when Bumpy decides someone isn't welcome, the entire neighborhood closes ranks. No violence, no threats, just absence. Doors don't open, phones don't ring, conversations end when you walk into the room. It's the most powerful weapon in the world. Collective indifference. By the third week, Red Knuckles is starting to panic. Nothing is working. Every move they make gets countered before they even finish making it. It's like fighting a ghost. What the hell is happening? He asks his crew one night, whiskey drunk and paranoid. One of his guys shrugs. Maybe Bumpy's making a move. What move? Red snaps. We haven't seen him do a damn thing. And that's when it hits him. The silence isn't a lack of action. The silence is the action. Bumpy Johnson isn't fighting the Westies. He's just turning Harlem off. And without Harlem, they're nothing. So let me ask you this. Is Bumpy Johnson a hero for protecting his community? Or is he just a smarter criminal using the same tools as everyone else? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Power doesn't care about your morals. It only cares about results. And Bumpy's results are about to speak for themselves. Subscribe if you want to see how the most brutal crew in New York got brought to their knees without a single shot fired. Let's go back to that moment at the Lenox Lounge. The one I started with. The one where Red Knuckles walks in with his tail between his legs and surrenders. But first, you need to know how it got there. 72 hours before that meeting, Smooth Perkins makes his decision. He's going to take the money. He's going to flip. He's going to give the Westies everything they need to dismantle Bumpy's operation and walk away with enough cash to disappear forever. He calls Red, sets up a meeting. Friday night, back at the same diner. But here's what Smooth doesn't know. Bumpy's known about the flip since day one, and he's been waiting for this exact moment. Thursday afternoon, Bumpy calls Smooth into his office. It's a small room above a barber shop on Lenox. Nothing fancy, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a window that looks out over the street. Sit, Bumpy says. Smooth sits. His heart is hammering. His hands are sweating. He's convinced this is it. This is where Bumpy puts a bullet in. Him. But Bumpy doesn't pull a gun. He pulls out a ledger, opens it, slides it across the desk. You see this? Bumpy says, tapping a page covered in numbers. This is every dollar you've handled in 5 years. Every pickup, every drop, every count. Smooth stares at the numbers. They're perfect. Exact. Down to the cent. Not a single dollar missing. Bumpy continues. Not one mistake. 5 years. And you've been perfect. Smooth looks up, confused. You know what that tells me? Bumpy asks. Smooth shakes his head. It tells me you're smart. Disciplined. Loyal. The word loyal hangs in the air like a blade. Bumpy leans back in his chair. The Westies offered you 30 grand. Smooth's blood turns to ice. 10 up front, 20 on delivery. Bumpy continues, voice calm, almost gentle. They want my suppliers, my cops, my bankers. They think if they buy you, they buy Harlem. Smooth can't speak, can't move, can't breathe. Here's what you're gonna do, Bumpy says. You're gonna take the meeting tomorrow. You're gonna give them names, you're gonna give them numbers, you're gonna give them everything they ask for. Smooth blinks. What? But the names you give them? They're gonna be wrong. The numbers you give them, they're gonna be fake. The banks you point them to, they're gonna be closed. Slowly, Smooth starts to understand. You're gonna let them think they won, Bumpy says. And while they're busy celebrating, I'm gonna take every piece. Off the board they didn't even know they had. He closes the ledger, slides it back. After tomorrow, the Westies are done in Harlem. And you? He looks Smooth dead in the eye. You're gonna be the reason why. Smooth swallows hard. Why me? Bumpy stands, walks to the window, looks out at the street below. Because a long time ago someone gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one, he says quietly. This is yours. Don't waste it. The next night, Smooth meets Red at the diner. He hands over a folder thick with documents. Names, addresses, account numbers, everything the Westies asked for. Red flips through it, grinning like Christmas morning. You just bought yourself a future, my friend, Red says, sliding the second envelope across the table. $20,000. Smooth takes it, nods, walks out. The Westies spend the next 72 hours moving on the information. They hit the addresses, call the contacts, show up at the banks, and every single one is a dead end. The suppliers don't exist. The cops aren't on any payroll. The bank accounts were closed years ago. They've been played. And that's when Red Knuckles realizes the truth. Bumpy Johnson didn't just know about the flip. He orchestrated it. Every move the Westies made, every piece of information they thought they stole, every step they took, it was all part of a plan Bumpy set in motion the moment Smooth walked into that diner 3 weeks ago. The Westies didn't infiltrate Harlem. Harlem swallowed them whole. By Tuesday night, Red knows it's over. His crew is hemorrhaging money. His reputation is shot. And worst of all, the other Irish crews back in Hell's Kitchen are starting to ask questions. So he does the only thing he can do. He walks into the Lenox lounge with his envelope of cash and surrenders. And Bumpy Johnson, sitting in that corner booth like he's been sitting there forever, doesn't gloat, doesn't threaten, doesn't even smile. He just says, I know, because he's known all along. The door closes behind Red, the street goes back to normal, and Harlem breathes easy again, the way it always does when the fever breaks. If this level of chess master strategy just gave you chills, hit that like button right now, because what you just witnessed isn't fiction, it's documented history, and it changed the underworld forever. So what happened after? The Westies never set foot in Harlem again. Word spread through the Irish. Mob like wildfire. Bumpy Johnson doesn't fight. He doesn't have to. He just makes you disappear without ever laying a hand on you. Within 6 months, the Westies pulled back to Hell's Kitchen and stayed there. The story of their failed invasion became legend. A cautionary tale told in every bar, every back room, every crew meeting from Brooklyn to the Bronx. Don't mess with Harlem. And never, ever underestimate silence. Smooth Perkins stayed with Bumpy for another decade, became one of his most trusted operators. And years later, when someone asked him why he didn't take the money and run, he said something I'll never forget. Bumpy didn't just give me a second chance. He taught me that loyalty isn't about who pays you the most. It's about who sees you when you're invisible. That's the lesson. In a world obsessed with noise, with flexing, with showing off, with proving power through violence, Bumpy Johnson understood something deeper. Real power doesn't announce itself. Real power doesn't need to. It just is. The Westies came to Harlem thinking strength meant muscle. Bumpy showed them that strength means infrastructure, means relationships, means building something so deep and so connected that you can't tear it down without tearing down the whole neighborhood with it. That's why he won. Not because he was tougher, not because he was meaner, but because he understood the game at a level his enemies couldn't even see. And here's the scary part. This same playbook is being used today, in boardrooms, in politics, in tech. The names change, the cities change, but the strategy stays the same. Control the network. Let your enemies overextend. Strike when they can't see you coming. So here's my question for you. In your own life, are you playing checkers or chess? Are you reacting, or are you 3 moves ahead? Next week, I'm breaking down the true story of Frank Lucas, the man who bypassed the Italian mob entirely and built an empire by going straight to the source. It's a story about ambition, betrayal, and the one mistake that cost him everything. If you don't want to miss it, subscribe now, hit the bell, and drop a comment telling me what you think about Bumpy's strategy. Because this conversation is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.